kind of just give us a summary of what was going on back in 2013 in Costa Rica.
Sure. So this is all according to reporting from the New York Times, and the story essentially says that on the 2013 calendar shoot, Redskins cheerleaders were accompanied by sponsors and suite holders, and that during that shoot, they were asked to pose topless. And while the pictures may have been covered as they were on set, they are topless, and now all of a sudden these sponsors and suite holders, all men, are standing around and essentially watching. There was at one point where one of the cheerleaders in the story said that her and her friends were around another cheerleader essentially as a human shield as she was trying to change, and the men were looking on. That night after the shoot, 9 of the 36 cheerleaders that were on the trip were asked by the team to escort these suite holders and sponsors to a nightclub, essentially as escorts. They said there was no sex involved, but they were asked to go to this club. When they walked in, it was empty and kind of weird, and it wasn't mandatory, but it was mandatory, if you will.
Right, and there's also a guy who's featured in the article, Mr. Teal, who's a longtime Redskins suite holder, who also had kind of a yacht party. Now, it wasn't a sex boat party, and he says he's got 5 sisters, so he always treats women with respect. But can you kind of fill us in on that?
Sure. That part of the story is basically what you said is the short version, that it was a party on his yacht, and this was up here in the D.C. area, and that cheerleaders were invited and were that one seemed like it was kind of, they could pick their own level, if you will. Like, okay, you're on the boat, and then if you would like to make more money, you can dance and take tequila shots or whatever shots out of turkey basters, and just your almost your movie scene crazy yacht party, and that this was encouraged and facilitated by the team, through the team, that this party was organized.
Now, a couple other things that kind of were revealed in this New York Times article, which, maybe some people will probably, is generally speaking, the cheerleaders, they're paid $75 a game. And when they went to this photo shoot in Costa Rica, sure, the hotel was taken care of and the travel was taken care of, but they weren't paid at all.
Right. Not only were they not paid, they had to actually buy the swimsuits that they were modeling for the calendar shoot. So they were not compensated for their time, and they had to pay to be a part of the shoot, even if they did get the flight and hotel, which is obviously, if you look at them as employees, which we should because they are, then that's not how business travel works. When I go to a place to cover a game, sure, I've bought the suit I might wear, but that's not the part of my job that I'm doing. That's not the equipment I need. The microphones and recorders and laptop that I bring, my equipment for the job is paid for. I'm paid for my time based on my salary. Any expenses are reimbursed as long as I don't break the rules and go to a place that costs $1,000 for dinner. So the business travel, and this is exactly how we should look at this because they are employees, is not that the rules of what governs that, both by norms and potentially by employment law, were not followed.
So the story says the cheerleaders were required to pose topless. Did any of the cheerleaders just refuse to do it?
That's one of the things that we don't know yet, Jason, and so we submitted
I don't even believe that, by the way. I don't believe that a company would say you have to post topless with a bunch of sponsors around. To be honest with you, I don't even believe that. I'm sure it happened and there was pressure, but to say it was required,
right. Well, that's the question, Eric, is what is the line of mandatory, right? So they could say, all right, now we want you to take your swimsuit top off, and the photographer is essentially instructing them to do that based off instructions he has of what the shots that the team wants, that whatever wants. And then the question, I guess, is answered by what happens if any particular girl says, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so in that way, that was one of the questions that we asked as a follow-up, because in the story, The director of the cheer squad said none of this was mandatory. Even going to the nightclub was mandatory. But by what definition are we considering mandatory? If they had said no, are they sent back to the hotel? Are they no longer a part of the shoot? Are they not on the calendar?
Right.
And then what is? Do you then say that is mandatory? And that way it is an argument of semantics. Clearly there was pressure and a system of how things were done at play that encouraged them to were comfortable or not to the reporting in the story and according to these girls that are quoted in the story. But in terms of what the policy was, that's a question that the team declined to answer when we followed up.